I need to start with a reminder, because some of you guys, I'm sure, have forgotten this. The hope, because we're like the 1 year anniversary of the whole shutdown thing, and we're starting to come out of it, and there's good stuff on the horizon. The whole thing, the whole shutdown, the lockdown, was not my fault. I know some of you really don't believe that, but I'm going to give you the story why some people blame me, and it's just crazy, because a year and about 3 weeks ago, after spending my entire life saying I would never ever get a tattoo, I got a tattoo. And 2 weeks later, the world shut down. Was not my fault. Okay, let me just say that right off the bat. Causation and correlation are not the same thing. And let me throw this in, though, while I'm bringing it up, that it was not my fault. If you get a stimulus check and you want to give us some of the money, we're okay with that. Just so you know, if you want to just donate a little bit, we're not going to get upset about that at all. So, anyway, now the reason I bring up my non-pandemic causing tattoo, the reason I bring it up is because of what it says. It says, because I'm always looking to push myself. It says, may he give you the desire of your heart and make all your plans succeed. Psalm 20, verse 4. And because I put a thing up there about plans, God said, ha, 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 and shut the world down. Not my fault, just coincidence, but that's what happened. Now, the reason I got the tattoo is because I am a significance junkie. I am somebody who really, it's in my strength finders, it's like way up in my top 5. Doing things that matters to me about as much as anything. Doing things that really impact lives, that modify it. If we don't change the world, I at least want to modify it significantly by the time I get out. That's how I'm wired, okay? But here's the thing. While you may not be the significance junkie that I am, my bet is most of you, somewhere in you, because you have the image of God in you, you want to make a difference. You want to do things that matter. You want to have an impact. You want to leave footprints. You want to leave ripples. You want the world to be better because you were here. Okay? And Jesus understood that. And so he told us a story in the Gospel of Luke that is about significance. It's about finding ways to matter, to do things that impact what's around you, to be significant. And before I tell you the story, read you the story. It's in Luke, like I said. It's chapter 20. It's on your notes. I don't have the reference in my notes till the very last verse, so if I blank on it, I'm done. Okay, so let me take a story first. This is history to set up Jesus' story. I want to tell you the history around Jesus' story, what kind of not inspired it, but at least made it, at least challenged people. There was this guy you've heard of named King Herod. You've heard of Herod the Great, possibly. He was great because he built lots of stuff. He wasn't great in any way you would define humanity as great, but he built lots and lots of big stuff, and he called himself Herod the Great, and he was the king of the area around Jerusalem, Judea, Jordan, that whole region, about the time Jesus was born. Well, when he died, it would be natural for his oldest son, Archelaus, to take over. Okay? But they were under Roman control. You didn't just name yourself king. You had to go to Rome, and Rome had to say yes or no to you being king. So Archelaus goes to Rome to be named king, and he only had a couple things going against him. The first was he was a monumental jerk. Archelaus was somebody nobody really liked. So when he went to Jerusalem went to Rome to ask them to make him king, a bunch of Jews went along. They kind of formed a little posse, booked their own plane tickets, and went to the same place to say, yeah, we would much prefer it, your honorable Caesar, if he wasn't king. If you could not put him in charge, we think that would be wonderful. Well, the Romans came up with a compromise. They made him the ethnarch. Ethnic, arch like in monarch, but not monarch, ethnarch. He was the king of that little region, and they didn't give him the good title. And he came back, and he managed to live down. This was right about the time Jesus was born. And for about 9 years, he was the ethnarch, and he lived down to everyone's expectations. Turns out, in addition to being a monumental jerk, he was incredibly incompetent. He was like insanely bad at his job. So after 9 years, he goes back to Rome again to see if now, can I get the upgrade on the title? I've done this for 9 years. I should be able to go from ethnarch to monarch. I think that would be reasonable. Can I go become King Archelaus? And again, the Jews send a team along. They booked their own, I know it wasn't planes, it was boats. They took their own boat trips, and they all went to Rome too, about 50 of them, and they show up to argue their case. And in the end, Caesar goes, you know what, Archelaus, we gave you a shot. They said you were a jerk, and they were right. They didn't tell us how incompetent you would be as a king. So you're out. And his younger brother, Herod Antipas, became the king. And you may have run into Herod Antipas if you've read the Bible much in the book of Acts, you'll run into him. And so that's the story that lies at the root of the one we're going to read. But before I read it, one more thing to let you know what's going on. Jesus is on his way in this series in Luke. He's on his way to Jerusalem for Passover, where he will be, as you know, crucified and rise from the dead. So he is heading toward that. As he is moving along, they are becoming more and more convinced that he is Messiah, that he is the king, that he is going to set up his kingdom on earth as soon as he gets there. And if you remember correctly, as soon as he gets there, what do? They have a big parade, and everybody yells, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, blessed is the son of David, David the king. Everybody thinks he's going to be king. His disciples are fighting about who's going to be second and third in line when he sets up his kingdom here in about, 2 weeks. Okay? So with those two things in mind, let's go ahead and read the story. It says, while they were listening to this, they're listening to him talk back, by the way, to Zacchaeus. He went on to tell them a parable because he was near Jerusalem, and the people thought that the kingdom of God was going to appear at once. He said, a man of noble birth went to a distant country to have himself appointed king. Their minds, it's only been like 10 years ago. Their minds go right back to that story, okay? And then to return. So he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. And a mina would be about a day's wages. A mina is not 10 days' wages. That money, that's not in the Greek. It says something different in the Greek. What this runs out to be, 10 minas, will get you to about $15,000, our terms. Okay? The kind of money when you're watching the game show and they win the game show, you go, that would be really cool to win, but you don't go, that would massively change my life. You're not going to change your zip code because of the $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, but it'll help. Okay, so it's enough money to get your attention, and that's what 10 minas is. Put this money to work, he said, until I come back. But his subjects hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, we don't want this man to be our king. Any remembrance here? He was made king, however, and returned home. Then he sent for the servants to whom he had given the money in order to find out what they gained with it. The first one came and said, sir, your mina has earned 10 more. Well done, my good servant, his master replied. Because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities. Boom. The second came and said, sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master answered, you take charge of 5 cities. Good job. And so we're going to stop there. We're halfway through the parable because I want to focus on this win. These are the people who do it right. And what we've got is a picture. And if you think about it, when it was first written, they, of course, were thinking of Archelaus. But we've got a king who goes away, and we're waiting for him to return. Can you think of anybody else who's a king who's gone away and we're waiting for him to return? Starts with a J, ends with Jesus. Okay? Right? So when this first happened, when Jesus first told this story, they're all in this, we're going to Jerusalem and we're going to take over the world, and this is going to be awesome. They're jacked up about this. They're checking their guns, they're loaded, they're ready to go. Now, Luke writes this 20, 30 years later. Remember, everybody went into Jerusalem thinking Jesus is going to take over when? How about now? His followers are like, when he rises from the dead, Now? Now? How about now? How about now? Every time he talks to the disciples, they'll be going to Jesus. How about now? Are you setting up the kingdom now? How about now? What about now, Jesus? How about today? Today's a good day, Jesus. It's a sunny day, good day to start the kingdom, Jesus. How about today? So Jesus, they're like, well, now 20, 30 years have passed by the time Luke writes this. And they're saying, what's going on? And now they go back and re-listen to this parable. Oh, the king went away to get his glory in heaven, and he's coming back. What are we supposed to do? Well, he brought in those 10 servants. He gave them each the 10 minas. And he said, handle this till I get back. So the first thing we learn from that parable is we live for a kingdom that is already present but not yet fulfilled. We live for a kingdom that's already present but not yet fulfilled. I'm going to be doing tomorrow my back deck Bible study. I'm going back to Revelation for a week. I realized I missed something talking about the major theories behind the book of Revelation. I never spent any time on that. So I'm going to go back tomorrow and cover that. And there's two that I'm especially attracted to personally. And what I noticed and I've seen people doing is they like to kind of combine the two, because one of the theories is heavy on the not yet, and one is heavy on the right now. And that's where we live. We live in a world of now but not yet. We live where we're advancing God's kingdom, but we're not expecting to fully win right now. Right? We're not expecting to march on Washington and then on the Kremlin and then on Beijing and take over the world. We're not expecting any of that, but we are expecting to make a difference. We're expecting to have an impact. We're expecting to be, significant in the way we do it. And we do it in the now and the not yet. We live in a kingdom that's present. We're here. God's Spirit is in us. We have the ability to be changed and to be change agents, but we recognize that it's not going to really take place until Jesus returns, until the King comes back. Okay? And James told him, how do you do that? How do you live in this world of the now and the not yet? And he put it this way: my friends, be patient until the Lord returns. So be patient until he comes back. Think of farmers who wait patiently for the spring and summer rains to make their valuable crops grow. And if we're not careful, I read that as suburban Steve. Be patient and wait for Jesus to come back. So I'm just going to, I've accepted Christ. Is he coming back yet? How about now? How about now? How about now? Now? How about next week? Now? That's not how farmers wait. Okay? I grew up on a farm. I got it out of my system early. There's no such thing as waiting the way that because for me, waiting means what? For me personally, waiting means nothing. Okay, it means doing as little as possible. For a farmer, waiting means getting the ground ready, getting the tools sharpened, making sure everything works. Because the last thing a farmer wants to do is get ready to harvest and find out that his harvester is broken. The last thing he wants to do is get ready to plant the soil and go, it would have been better if we'd fertilized. Matter of fact, if you live in this area certain periods of time, you'll find them fertilizing. And if you live in one of the neighborhoods, you'll go, oh, that's what fertilizer smells like. Okay, good. I'm glad there are chicken farms around here. Free advice. Okay? So waiting is not inactive, it's very active. And so the way that he puts it, the way that he told those people, he take the 10 minas and I want you to put it to work. So we're to wait actively and faithfully. Actively and faithfully. That's what he told him to do. Matter of fact, Jesus told a parable very, very similar to this one in one of the other Gospels, the Gospel of Matthew. It's not exactly the same. We can tell it's different. But it ends similarly, and it says, and he tells them, remember if you told the guy that got the 10 minas, he said, good job, well done. Well, in the one in Matthew, when he tells a very similar parable, he ends up that one by saying, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. So God's looking for us to be faithful and active. Active and faithful. I know some people who are very faithful and very inactive. Okay? I see some people who are very active, but they're not very faithful. They're just busy. Okay? Active and faithful means you're active on the things that matter. Now, what does that look like? Now, if you're in the church business like I am, if that's your MO, if that's what your business card reads, there's a question that will be asked of you. Matter of fact, I'll get a reference. Sometimes somebody will say, can you recommend my child for a Christian school? So they'll send me the letter, and I'll have to fill out the letter, and it'll say, are they a member of your church? Yes, no. Are they active? And what they mean, you know what they mean by active in the church? You know what they mean when they say, are they active in that church, in the church? It means, in church speak, do they show up most of the time? That's what active means. It means, did they make their appearance regular? I'm not sure how you do active when half your church or more is online. But active, you're still considered active in that thing if you're online regularly, because that's how they define active. That's not how Jesus defines active. That's not Jesus' definition of active. Matter of fact, in that same parable that he tells in Matthew, he then follows it up with another parable so that they can know what faithful and active is supposed to look like, or at least one way. And it's talking about the end times, when the Son of Man comes back. And it says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He'll put the sheep on his right hand, the goats on his left. And I'm immediately going, my guess is I want to be a sheep. Just thinking out loud. Then the king will say to those on his right, the sheep, got it right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. Come be part of the final kingdom. Come into the not yet part is now yet. And we're coming into that, okay? How do I know? For I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. So what's active look like? Well, this one place where he's talking, and it's not the only place he talks about it, active, being active and faithful, means I'm faithfully helping the people who can't help themselves. That's the common theme for all that group there. I was naked and you clothed me. I was in prison and you visited me. I don't know if you've ever had a family member in prison, but they don't make it to Thanksgiving. Okay? They're not going to get there because they're in prison. They can't visit you. You have to visit them, right? If they're naked, they can't clothe you because they can't clothe themselves. If they're hungry, they can't loan you food because they don't have food themselves. So that whole list is a list of people who do not have something that is implied, I have. The person in prison doesn't have the freedom to go visit me, so I take my freedom to help them. So the whole thing is, who are the people who are least? Who are the people who are hurting? How do I help them? That's one of the things he says, if you're going to be active and faithful, that you're doing is you're helping the people who can't help themselves. Right? Didn't make that up, right? Now, the second thing, as I already mentioned this story, Jesus, spoiler alert, we're coming up on Easter. Okay, I'm just going to tell you how the Easter story goes. I know some of you are new and you don't know how this works out, but Jesus is going to go to Jerusalem. They're going to love him at first. They're going to crucify him. They're going to bury him, and 3 days later he's going to rise from the dead. Okay, so I know I just ruined Easter for you, but that's what's coming, and just get ready for it. That's what's happening. In 2 weeks we're going to talk about that. Okay, so he rises from the dead, and he's talking to his followers, and they are still in the how about now mode. They're still in how about now mode. Okay, and so they say to him, right now are you going to restore the kingdom of Israel? And he says, it's not for you to know the times or dates the Father has set by own authority, but, my favorite word in the Bible, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. Okay? I want you to be active and faithful in helping the least and reaching the lost. Those are the two primary things. If you go through the entire Bible, you're going to find when they say to be active and faithful, that sums it up. I mean, if it's not one of those two things, it's probably not what he's wanting you to do, is somehow are you helpful. So Jesus calls us to faithfully help the least and reach the lost as we await his return. That's what he's looking for. That's what he's given you the 10 minas for. That's what you've received your talents, your abilities, your faithfulness for, is to help those people, the ones who are lost. We've been talking about lost means misplaced. They're not in the right relationship with God. How do you help them? Least is they don't have something that you have. Okay? So who are the ones who are misplaced that you can help get found again, and who are the ones who are missing something that you can help them with? And that's that's the first part of the parable, and that's the good part. It gets worse. The second part's not as positive and as upbeat. There's not going to be, yay, you found 10 minas, you get 10 cities. It's not going to go well. Just so you know. Let's go ahead and finish the rest of it, now that I've made you excited about hearing the rest of it. Then another servant came and said, Sir, here's your mina. I've kept it laid away in a piece of cloth. We'll talk about that. I was afraid of you because you're a hard man. You take out what you did not put in, and you reap what you did not sow. And his master replied, I will judge you by your own words, you wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in and reaping what I did not sow? Why then didn't you put my money on deposit so that when I came back I could have collected it with interest? Why did you stick it in a napkin when you could have put it in a bank? Okay? Then he said to those standing by, take his mina away from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. Sir, they said, he already has 10. He replied, I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given. But as for the one who has nothing, even what they have will be taken away. But for those enemies of mine, let's take it even down another notch. The ones who went and said I couldn't be king, the ones who did not want to be the king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. Told you, it gets real cheery there at the end, doesn't it? And now we've got the flip side. We've got the negative. And we've got two groups of people in the negative set. We've got one group who admit that Jesus is king, but ain't doing diddly about it. Right? They've just got their mina and they wrapped it in. They didn't even, the way you were supposed to keep money in those days was you buried it. Okay, that was a safe place to put money, was in the ground somewhere. They just wrapped it in a napkin. Do you have anything in your house that you value wrapped in a napkin? Anything at all wrapped in a napkin? Now, I've got a box in my chest of drawers, which is that's where I keep my passport and things like that. I've got a place for the somewhat valuable things. And Kim's got 311 boxes for jewelry. Right? So the valuable things, you don't wrap valuable things in. So this person didn't value it. So that's one set of people. But you've got the other set, the ones who rejected Jesus as king, who say Jesus isn't Messiah. And theirs is worse. He says, for them it's like, yeah, go ahead and let's soprano those people. Okay, just take them out. Okay. See, so we'll hit with those people. I need to tell your acceptance or rejection of Jesus matters. That's a hard reality, and we don't try to push it too hard. We want to give people a chance to make the decision. But understand, this is the most important decision you will make. It's what are you going to do with Jesus? And usually I save this till the end of the service. But if you'd like to talk to us about having that relationship with Jesus, that's what we want to be active and faithful, and one of the ways we're active and faithful is setting up an environment where you can come to a relationship with Christ. And if you'd like to talk to somebody about having a relationship with Christ, and you're online, hit that, just type that in there, or try to get somebody's attention if you're in a room there. But just type that in. Just exactly, it looks weird, it works. It'll take you to our blue bag. We've got a blue bag that we have, and at the end of the service, I'll hold it up and say, if you want to talk to somebody about having a relationship with Christ, you grab one of these blue bags at the end of the service. Okay, they're over there and they're there. And see, I did it early, but don't anybody freak out. I am not done. Because some of you guys, you're primed. I hold up the blue bag, and you get tensed for movement. You're ready to go. I'm like halfway done. All right, just chillax. We are not done yet. I'm just putting it in the middle because that's what I'm talking about right now. Okay. So if you're here and you want to talk to somebody about having a relationship with Christ, grab one of these blue bags. We'll talk to you. If you're online and you want to talk to somebody about that, you can either go to that website and look up the blue bag, and then either during or after, you can email me, steve@spoutsprings.org, and we'll talk about that. Because making a decision for Jesus matters. What you decide matters. Okay? But you know what else matters? It matters for the people who rejected Jesus as king. It also matters for the people who've accepted him as king that you're doing something, because your investment in the work of Jesus matters. Your investment in the work of Jesus matters. There are, I'm trying to say this as politely as I can. But you know what the one guy's problem was? Jesus called him wicked, so that was part of his problem. His problem was, number one, he didn't care enough about Jesus. It was like, whatever. And that showed in the fact that he was lazy, and one of the ways you show you're lazy is you seek out what we all seek out, which is comfort. It was too much of a bother to invest that money. That was, oh my God, that would involve walking down to the town square and meeting with people, going and buying things and making something out of them and reselling them. That would be such a bother. Oh, and burying it, I have to go get a shovel. I got to mark where it was. Oh, what a bother. Is there a napkin around? Yeah, that one, the Hardee's one. Yeah, hand me that. That's just, don't worry, I just wiped my mouth on it once. Not a big deal. They wrapped it in it, and he just stuck it somewhere in a drawer. See, there are so many people, can I say this? I can say this, I got the microphone. Who are torn between significance and comfort. And they go after comfort. And the problem with comfort is comfort can never lead to significance. You can be as comfortable as anybody, and nothing significant comes out of comfort. Now, I'm not saying you have to be uncomfortable all the time, you have to be miserable. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the reality that if you want to do anything that matters in life, if you want it to matter, if you want to make an impact of any kind, you can't make comfort your number one goal. It can't be the thing that drives your life. And for most of us, that's always a temptation. And so many people that I know are Christians who are not investing at all in Jesus' work because they want to be comfortable. But you can tell how thoroughly a person is invested in God's kingdom by how much you're investing for God's kingdom. There are people, if you're not invested in God's kingdom, you're not going to be investing your life in God's kingdom. And let me just, I got to get moving here eventually. Because that faithfulness, this is really wild. Because what happens? I got your pens out and you're ready, and now I'm going to make you wait, okay? Because I got you're all in blank fill-in mode, but just chillax. I'll get there. I will get to the blanks. Because remember what happened with the dude with the 10 minas? He got the 10 minas. He invests them. He makes 10 more. He comes to the king. He gives the king the 10 minas, and the king says, "Guess what? There's a retirement village over on the beach. I want you to move down there, and I want you to just relax and be comfortable for the rest of your life." Is that what he said? No, he said, "No, okay, great. You have shown leadership ability, so therefore I am promoting you to leadership, and now you're in charge of not 10 minas, but 10 cities." And the guy with 5, the same thing happens. So when we're faithful, faithfulness leads to increased opportunity and responsibility. Okay? Remember we said, I should let you fill that out better. You guys weren't done, were you? Sorry, I'm not going right. Okay, never mind. My app's been acting up. It's going the wrong direction completely. I can't make it go. Could you click me back to the last words before the pictures? Whatever they are. There, because I was going to let them see the words again. Opportunity, responsibility, those are big words. They had all that time to get ready for the blank. I didn't give them time to fill out the blank. Okay, my app on my tablet is not acting well. You got it? Everybody got it? You guys at home got it? Okay. If you're at home, just rewind. Okay. Go back over that a little bit. The first one came, said, "Sir, your mina has earned 10 more. Well done, good servant." Other thing, faithful servant. Because you've been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities. The second came, said, "Sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master answered, "You take charge of 5 cities. And he says, "I tell you, everyone who has, more will be given. But as for the one who has nothing, even what they have will be given away." Now, the reason I wanted to go to the pictures, because the pictures help me remember my stories. Because doing things that matter for people who are least and lost I am so pleased. It is part of the DNA of this bunch of people. If you're part of Spout Springs Church, it just becomes part of who you are, that we help the least and we reach the lost. We set up Sunday morning. We do all the stuff. We hold up blue bags. Everybody's just so used to blue bags that when I hold up a blue bag, they go into a certain thing because we're going to watch somebody accept Christ. We're going to baptize somebody. We're going to be faithful reaching the lost. We're going to do that. We know that we are active and faithful, and we're also insanely active and faithful in helping the least. And it's part of who we are. But it doesn't start. See, a lot of people wonder, because they probably, especially new people, they're going, Steve, it seems like you guys have a major push like every other month at least for something to help the least. Doesn't it seem that way? It doesn't seem like it's at least every other month. It's this big thing that we're doing to help the least in a different way every time. It rotates on the year. Do you know how much time the staff spends in planning those events? Just think for a second. We do a major event every other month. How much time, Barry, how much time do we spend in staff meetings planning all these? Basically none. Nada. Not nada, but right up button edge, nada. The biggest part we have to plan is how Barry or I are going to talk about it during service. Because here's what happens. I'll give you one story, and hopefully I get the story right, but I'm going to tell you a bunch of stories, so I'll get a few things right. We used to do two things at the same time every winter, and they were called Christmas shoeboxes. We collected shoeboxes full of stuff and sent it all over the world to help kids who weren't getting Christmas. And then when that was done, we did coats and cans. And coats and cans we just pointed out that everybody had extra coats in your closet. Almost everybody. So to bring us the extra coats, and we'll give them to the shelters, and go get some canned food, and we'll give them to the food organizations. And we had to quit that because we so swamped all the clothes distribution places that they didn't have any place to put all our coats. And the food people started saying, Steve, we like the cans, but we like money better because we can buy the food cheaper than you can. So we stopped doing coats and cans, and we stopped doing Christmas shoeboxes, because everything has a time limit. But one of the people who got involved in those and was active in those was somebody named Kat Worsham, and you'll hear her name frequently, okay? And Kat Worsham got the bug. And so she went out and noticed that there's a lot of kids in the schools around here, especially the one school at Johnsonville we focused a lot of our energy on, and they could use like school supplies and maybe a little bit of food. So we started collecting backpacks for the kids at Johnsonville Elementary. And so every in August-September timeframe, we go out, and Kat Worsham leads the team, and she finds out what they need. And we started out working with Johnsonville, and now we give them to Johnsonville, and we give them to Highland, and we give them to Benhaven, and it just keeps getting bigger, okay? Because one person was faithful in a little thing. They were faithful at coats and cans, and God gave them a bigger responsibility. Then we started doing this thing called, what's it called? Trunk or treat. And we kind of did it halfway as a church, and we still do it as a church, but one guy, Jim King, looked at it and said, I love the impact this has on our community, and I'm telling him his secrets out of school, but he makes that happen. Dude collects candy all year long. I am not making that up. Dude spends a year collecting candy, getting all the stuff ready. When we get here, you can tell he's military because he organizes us. And all of us just show up with our decorated vehicles, and we line up. And if you go out to the back parking lot, this thing wrapped all the way around the building and back through. And the line to get in, this was during the pandemic. We're wearing masks. We're trying to keep people to social distance the best we can. The line goes to the corner of the tent building, runs all the way to the sidewalk on the door, then goes out that way, cuts behind the coffee shop, behind New Growth Cafe, and then cut halfway across the parking lot again. My son-in-law timed it. He showed up with my 4 grandkids. It took them 45 minutes from the time they got out of the car to get to here, before the first car. We impact thousands. One guy and his wife were faithful in a little thing, and God opened up something bigger. A couple other people decide, hey, you know what? There's kids in our area. We kind of got out of the shoebox thing. How do we help the kids in our area at Christmas? And a few of them got together. One of our people named Tammy Lucart, she said, you know something I've done in the past? And she described how she does this thing where she organizes everything with the community leaders, with the schools, so you're actually reaching out to kids who are actually needy and need help. And she sets it up along with Kat Worsham's name comes up all the time. Angie Jones's name is going to come up all the time. We talk about these things. But she gets her posse together, and they do Operation Christmas Hope now. And they do it here. We also do it as my gym does it as in conjunction with the church, because Tammy and her husband Zach own the gym. And we help dozens and dozens of kids every year because Tammy and again Kat and Angie were faithful in a little thing, and now they're being faithful in a big thing. A number of years ago, we were doing a connection group study through a book. I forget which book it was, a Mark Batterson book, and he mentioned something called International Justice Mission, which you may or not have heard of. International Justice Mission takes lawyers and fights human trafficking on a legal scale. They go to cities and start doing the legal work to help out the local authorities prosecute sex offenders, sex trafficking specifically, all over the world. And he and his family wanted to go to Cambodia. They had a chance for an internship. He was a JAG lawyer, and he resigned his commission, and they moved to Cambodia, and our church paid for it. Other churches helped. We kicked in like 80-90% of the money to send them to Cambodia for a year. While they're in Cambodia, she goes out with her sons looking for some way they can serve too, and they find this place called Hard Places, okay? Hard Places Community, which help little boys that are on the street that are in danger. That's what they do. And she fell in love with the ministry, and she came back. Her name's Kim Schiffman, her husband Steve, and they came back, and they infected all of us with Cambodia. And so now it's a disease we all have, and we try for every other year. Pandemic's going to cook us back to a third year, where we send a team every other year to Cambodia to help them, just to go in there. What can we do to help make your lives easier and do this better for you? And then we also raise enough money every year to pay for the trip. So on the years we don't go, we just send them the money, which means they've multiplied their staff because of us, because we do things that matter, because Kim Schiffman goes to Cambodia, decides to be faithful in a little thing with her and her boys, and goes into the Hard Places community and works with them, and God multiplies it. Can I tell you another one? You got time for one more? Because this is like normal. What I'm telling you is just as normal as can be. I don't know if you know I got two more. When you came in, there's a truck over here that says 5 and 2 Food Pantry. We don't own 5 and 2 Food Pantry. We don't run it. We support it heavily, but it's somebody else's baby, okay? And so a few years ago, they got into some trouble financially because it wasn't directly their fault. There were a lot of economic things that happened. And they were in trouble, and they were getting ready to close. And, I don't do much with these things, but sometimes I'll get up and I'll preach. Okay, and I got up and I preached, and I said, we got to save these guys, and they don't need $1,000. They need $1,000 a month. Okay, we give them $1,000, that gets them through Tuesday. They need $1,000 a month until. And so we spent a month pushing 5 and 2 Food Pantry, and we raised $1,000 a month in community. My family and I, we give $30 a month. Not a huge thing, but enough. And you get enough people doing that, and that adds up. And while we're doing that, a few of our people notice that 5 and 2 is a pretty cool ministry. And so a couple, Tim and Colleen, they go over and they start serving over there. And next thing you know, Tim is now, what's your title? Chief Poobah? Board president. He's president of the board at 5 and 2 because he was faithful in the little thing. And be careful, just so you know, as far as pregnancy crisis centers, Colleen started working at that, so I don't know what that's going to mean here eventually because this stuff it tends to blow up around here. Okay, one person is faithful, and it goes somewhere else. You've heard this one. We're doing this one right now. I'm going to push the one that's happening right now. The sweatpants and T-shirts drive, because Kat Worsham again goes out. She finds these things, and she goes out and finds out that when somebody is sexually assaulted, they go to the police, and everything they have on their person is evidence, and the police collect all of it at the hospital, and the person walks out in a gown, one of those gowns that's supposed to tie in the back and doesn't. And what they wanted was sweatpants and T-shirts and stuff like that. And we said, oh, we have that skill set. So we collect so much stuff every year that they have to ask us this year to kind of modify what we're giving because they've still got the stuff left over from last year, because this is how we do it. Okay, we come in and it's significant and it matters. And matter of fact, if you haven't already done something for that one, go to our Facebook page and you can see how you can give and help this year during our drive for this one. And Of course, I already mentioned the 5 and 2 food pantry. And then I could go for days. I could do this for days. But I'm not. Don't worry. Then, 2 different things happened. Adam and Nicole McGee went to Cambodia, and they caught it bad and came back and said, what can we do here? And they're looking at different options for what they can do here. And then they run into the Renals, and the Renals like kids. They like kids so much they bring kids that aren't their kids and bring them into their house. They foster parent. If you ever see pictures of the Renal family, there'll be, 15, 20 people in the picture. And 9 of them will have a heart over their face because they're a foster child and they're not supposed to put their pictures on social media. Okay, so if you're wondering when you're looking at a Renal family photo why there's 4 smiling faces and a bunch of hearts, it's because they foster a bunch of kids. And as the McGees and the Renals were talking, they go, there's a huge need in the foster parent system because when they grab the kids out of somebody's house, grab, that sounds terrible. When they remove a child from a family, a lot of times either the child doesn't have much or they don't have time to get much. So why don't we start a closet where we've got the stuff so that the social services people can just come here and we'll hand them the bag. Here's stuff in that kid's size so that kid can go to school the next day looking like a human. Okay, so they can have a toothbrush and a toothpaste and all that cool stuff. Okay, and that's starting, when's that starting? That's our foster, I think it's May. May is when that one kicks in. And so every other month, something happens to help people that are the least. And it's not because Barry and I sit around conspiring, how can we do it? It's not because we plan it. It's because people are faithful in a few things, and God gives them more opportunity to be more. And my job is to get up here and sort of half cry about all of them once in a while because I get excited about this kind of stuff because I think this is us being the kingdom of God on earth. This is what Jesus said. He said, I want you to be faithful and active until I come. So we reach the lost and we help the least. And I'll skip this as... So, our reward for faithfulness is not rest, but the opportunity for greater service. And that's what I want everybody to catch. Because you're going out and you're going, oh, I don't know, I'd like to do something big. Don't do something big. Be faithful doing something little. Just volunteer at 5 and 2. Just help with the rape crisis stuff as we bring in the stuff. When we get ready for the foster, go out with your family and get stuff and bring it in for us to put into that. When it comes to Operation Christmas Hope, go out and buy presents for kids that you can afford to help with. And then when the opportunity comes to take it up one more notch, it's not a matter of spending more time. It's a matter of spending your time more effectively. We're not wanting all your time. We're wanting you to use your time to the best, and you do that as you're faithful in a little thing, and God makes you faithful and gives you opportunities for bigger things. You're expecting me to give you one, right? You're going, okay, he's got one coming. He's got one. I hear it. It's coming. He's got one. He's got a nice, easy I got a nice, easy first step for you. Online, live, I got an easy first step for you because Easter's coming up in 2 weeks. And one of the things that happens at Easter is because hardly any of us are from here, a lot of us get away from here when it comes to holidays. So at Christmas, I'm talking to people I do not know. Christmas service is me talking to strangers because everybody that I know has to volunteer somewhere to make the place run for Christmas. And Easter's almost the same thing. It's crazy how many people decide they want to be with Mom for ham on Easter. I guess I get it. Mom makes some good ham. If I showed a tape on Easter with that, I probably should stay. No, I'll be here for Easter, all 3 services. But can I give you an easy one? An easy thing, just take a little step before, because one of the things that we need are lots of people to say hello. Welcome to Spout Springs. And if you have, can I give you the official, this is the official test to see if you're competent to work at First Impressions. First thing I want you to do is smile. Okay, I'm looking around. Online, you're doing good. Smile. Okay, I got a lot of you're not working hard. You're not working it. There you go. That's better. Then go like this, although this time it's go like this. Or maybe even, you don't even have to be able to shake hands this year. You just got to be able to smile. That's the sum total. And matter of fact, if you're wearing a mask, they can't even tell if you're smiles. Can you make your eyes look good? Can you just light up a little bit with your eyes? That's all you got to do. And if you're able to do that and you're in the auditorium after the service, Kevin's right there. Kevin heads up our First Impressions team. He's been faithful for years and years and years. He does an amazing job. Just go over to Kevin, and he will book you. You don't have to promise to do it ever again. But be faithful in a little thing. Now, be careful. Sometimes being faithful in a little thing will lead to bigger things. But it's almost always in your passion. It's something that you're going to love doing. So if you're not got anything booked to do on Easter weekend, talk to Kevin. If you're online and you're thinking about, I don't know, maybe it's ready to come back. Easter, I'm not going to push anybody. Everybody, you come back when you're comfortable. But if you're thinking Easter, 2 services, serve 1, attend 1. Piece of cake. Okay? So, anyway, Kevin's over there, or email office@spoutsprings.org, and office@spoutsprings.org, a.k.a. Heather, will forward it to Kevin. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm sorry if this turned into a commercial for how we do things, but I just want you to understand that as you see all these things, it's because we believe that parable. It's because our king has gone away, but he's coming back. And our job is to be active and faithful until he gets back. And my question for you is, how active and faithful are you being? Okay? We already talked about the blue bag. If you'd like to accept Christ, let us know. Okay? If you need to be baptized, that's one of the things he said, go and baptize people. Okay? So if you want to be baptized, send baptism@spoutsprings.org, that email. We'll connect you and get that done. We're baptizing regularly. Even during the pandemic, we find safe ways to do it, and we're doing it. If you'd like to be part of a crazy church that's full of screwed up people who believe we can make a difference working together, if you'd like to be part of that, what we do is an orientation chat. It's where me or one of the other staff members sits down with you for about an hour. We talk about the vision for the church, where the church has been, where it's going. We also talk about your spiritual journey, where you've been, where you think you're going, and how we can work together to help you become all God created you to be. So as we work together to accomplish all kinds of cool things for God. So you just send an email to steve@spoutsprings.org, and I'll set that up for you. Well, that's it. I hope you liked it. Did you like that? I was thinking that story was, I wanted you guys to hear the stories. I thought that was just important. Once in a while, we just stop and you see the stories, and you see it's not the staff. It's the people of the family of God at Spout Springs that are just doing insanely wonderful, amazing things, and you get to be part of it. Okay? Can I pray for us? Father, thank you so much for today. Thank you for what you're accomplishing through us, through all of us just being faithful and active. How that when we're faithful and active, you increase our opportunities and you do amazing things. Thank you so much for that. And Father, one of our opportunities is we have so many people in our church who are military, and there's always a few who are deployed, a few who are long-term temporary duty. We pray you'd be with them, keep them safe, be with their family members that are here, strengthen them, encourage them. And Father, help us to go out from here living actively and faithfully while we await your return. That's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.